Namaste. Welcome to our 49th talk on the Bhagavad Gita. We'll begin with the 19th verse. Krishna has been describing what he is in relation to the world. Earlier he said, I'm the goal, the sustainer, the Lord, the witness, the abode, the refuge, etc. In fact, every possible relationship that can be had, God is that to the world and therefore to us. So he continues, as the sun, I radiate heat. I withhold and send forth rain. I am immortality and death. Being and non-being am I. Needs no explanation. The knowers of the three Vedas, the purified of sins, worshipping by sacrifices, seek the goal of heaven. But heaven is for them something more than the petty ideas that are in other religions. Heaven is where the gods live. And therefore, you want to go and be a god among the gods and to be in that high company, not just good people, but divine beings. They, the meritorious, attaining the world of Indra, again, the world of the gods, he's the king of the gods, enjoy divine heavenly pleasures of the gods. Now, don't think that of being all the kinds of things on earth that people run after. No, for the gods who are exalted beyond life and beyond birth and death in these lower worlds, what delights in them is the looking upward to God and the going and the striving toward God. So they're not just singing and dancing and so on, as such certain people think, but rather they are working toward the goal. Having enjoyed the vast heaven world, for example, there are hundreds of worlds, and you can go from one to the other and just see them. The astral world, to say it's beautiful, it doesn't mean much because we only know earthly so-called beauty. But the astral worlds are amazing. They're stunning to see in their beauty and in their perfection. And the problem is you can get lost in that and again just become a tourist. Literally go from place to place just being awed with what you see and being utterly absorbed in it. And there's no evil people there to upset you. There's no earthquakes, diseases, so on, tornadoes. So you just wander around looking. And lifetime, with the extent of lifetimes can pass, and then suddenly, whoop, you fall back down, and then you're back here in the mud puddle. Yes, with all the rest of the mud puddle, the mud puddle dwellers. Sorry. All right. With merit exhausted, they re-enter the world of mortals. So there you are, back again. So king for a day doesn't mean that much, does it? Thus, carrying out the injunctions of the three Vedas, desiring objects of desire, going and coming from birth to birth, they obtain them. In other words, they don't learn. They think, oh, I was there one time and it was really great and I loved it, and well, I want to go back there again. Because it's the nature of the human being to want to re-experience and recreate whatever has been pleasing to them. Those men who single-mindedly direct their thoughts to me worship me. In other words, worship See, worship is an interesting word. Uh, the English word actually is worthship, recognizing something as being worth it, as being of value, as having meaning. And so those who then say it's God who's the goal, not heaven, that God is itself infinite being, then that's real worship of God. For them who are constantly steadfast, I bestow what they lack. Of course, we lack a great deal, and preserve that which they possess. But you see, by fixing your mind on the highest, by doing tapasya, for even in heavenly worlds you do tapasya, or you can if you're wise, so that you don't fall back in this world, you just graduate up to a higher world. So those who are wise like that, then what they haven't had to keep them in the higher realm, they gain it. And because it's offered to God, then God retains or preserves that which they have gained. Even those who with devotion worship other gods, meaning lesser beings, whether they're nature spirits or whether they're great powers that can control various things, such as the elements of the earth and even of the treasures beneath the earth, they also worship me. In other words, it's really wonderful. Uh, we're completely free when we turn to Sanatana Dharma from this other, well, what are you doing that for? Why would you go for such a lesser thing? And in those, yeah, snipe, snipe, snipe. No. In other words, he says, even those who with devotion worship other gods also worship me because he's the God of gods. And he doesn't say, why are you bothering with that? Why don't you just look at me? No. And those who are true yogis, they have the same feeling. They look at the whole range of development and evolution and they say they're all coming on this one path to the absolute. I may be a little ahead of them, and there are a lot of people far ahead of me, and it's all right because we are moving onward, for it is the nature of the individual to evolve. Having come out from the absolute, it is its nature to return to the absolute. Even those who with devotion worship other gods, meaning not meaning they worship lesser beings that are powerful rather than the absolute who's even beyond the concept of power. Even those who with devotion worship other gods also worship me because God is in us, God is in them. Though with a mistaken approach. Now, we'll want to take a look at that. A mistaken approach. Oh, they're wrong. They don't have the right idea. No, it doesn't mean that. I'm going to read you what I wrote in preparing the translation of the Gita, this one I'm using. All right. The words with a mistaken approach is the best I can do with avidi purvakam. That's the Sanskrit word. It literally means not according to the rules or outside the rules or without rules. The idea seems to be that these people do not know or understand how to worship God correctly because they do not know or understand the nature of God. Makes sense, doesn't it? Other possible terms add extra meaning or attitude, like, oh, it's ignorant and it's wrong and so on. Krishna doesn't imply this at all. They're right where they're supposed to be at this moment in their evolution. So this is not a small thing to keep in mind. All right. Truly, I am the enjoyer and Lord of all sacrifices. But because they do not know me in truth, they fall back into rebirth in this world. In other words, if you don't really know God genuinely, fully, and deeply, you can know God a little bit, but to be free from the bondage of rebirth and re-death, you have to really have knowledge, which means you have to awaken in God and know you yourself are God. Those who are devoted to the gods go to the gods. Those who are devoted to the ancestors go to the ancestors, because people of lower evolution don't even have the understanding of gods. They just think, oh, well, King so and so has died, and he must also be a king in the other world, and so on. And my own ancestors, after all, my parents must look after me, my grandfather, my great grandfather, my great grandfather. They'll all say, oh, you're of our family. Hurry up and get up in the highest heavens. So they go to the ancestors. Well, what happens to your ancestors? They get born again on earth. So then, those who are devoted to the spirits, the Bhutas, those who have of lower religion, they worship nature spirits, they worship the spirits of the dead, and so on, animal spirits even. They go to the spirits. Those who are devoted to me surely come to me. Whoever offers to me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, even, I accept that offering of devotion from him whose heart is pure. It's the custom in ritualistic worship in India to offer things such as flowers, incense, lights, even food, because this is what we have and what we live on. And so this is a prelude to saying, oh God, I offer all these things I value to thee, and I want to offer myself. It says in some of the scriptures, the Purusha Medha, the human sacrifice, is greater than the other sacrifice. But he doesn't mean we kill people to worship God. It means those who offer themselves. That is the true and worthy worship of God. And when it's directed toward God, then we go to God. So he says, in being practical, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice, whatever you give, whatever tapasya you practice, whatever spiritual discipline, do that as an offering to me. In Sanskrit, you say, Varmarpana mastu. I give this to God. That we live with the idea our life is an offering to God. So everything is for God. And it's a wonderful way to live and to think. And to think that I'm enjoying this, but it's the gift of God. Therefore, oh God, the enjoyment, the feeling I have, the satisfaction I have, the happiness I have, that too is yours. Of myself, I know I don't have anything, because you are my everything and my own inmost being. Thus shall you be freed from the bonds of action, producing both good and evil fruits. In other words, if you do it and you do it the best you can with the idea, again, I am living in and with God. This is God's dream. So I'm going to dream along with God and, in a sense, entertain or honor God by these other things, even if they're material. For example, I knew some woman had a nephew that worshiped Krishna. And the usual things again is fruit and flowers and a light and water and so on. But he came one day to his parents and said, Lord Krishna came and told me, give me whatever you like. If you like a candy bar, give me a candy bar. If you like chewing gum, give me a chewing gum. If you like soda, give me soda. I will like whatever you like. You know, the children have pure hearts, hopefully, unless their previous lives of scars uh, are there, darkening things. And in India, people have enough sense to realize that, and they pay attention to what a deity may say to a child. So from then on, that's exactly what the child did. Whatever he wished he had, he got it, he offered it to God. And then, since God and Christian didn't come and eat it, well, then he had it. Sri Ramakrishna used to actually joke sometimes about this, where people pretended to be great devotees of God, but they just happened to only offer the things that they liked the most, knowing they were going to get them back. Thus shall you be freed from the bonds of action, producing both good and evil fruits. If you say, I know you're the origin, I know you're the goal, and you try for it to be the best, and for your mind to remain fixed on higher things, then steadfast in the yoga of renunciation, because you've given it to God already. But you can't fool God. God knows it in your heart. You haven't given it. But if you have this yoga and totally liberated, you shall come to me. That's a very wonderful truth, not an idea, not a hope, a truth. And rather than run over, as I usually do, I would like a couple of minutes earlier to stop here, because then we're going to come to another very, very important segment about, all right, you offer to God, oh God, you're God, and God says, well, right, I accept. But what is the relationship we have with God? Really? We say worship God as a child. They say worship God as if he is your child, the Bal Rama, Bal Krishna. And you can assume any human relationship toward God and worship God as that. It's perfectly legitimate. And he's going to discuss more about his relationship and his status of being in relation to humans and humans in relation to him. So, namaste. Till next time.